Hello and welcome to Connecting Hope, presented by the Hamilton County Council on Alcohol and Other Drugs. I'm Will Hampton, along with Monica Greer from the Hamilton County Council on Other Drugs.
Yes, good to see you.
Alcohol and Other Drugs. Tell me about, you just recently had your big annual meeting.
Yes.
Everybody gets together.
Yes.
And everybody's there to kind of, again, like our name of our show, connect and help other people.
Yeah, that's a big part of what we do, is just the connection between the community members, being able to interact and share resources. And yeah, the annual meeting, I know 2020 was
Crazy.
awful, depressing, many words to describe it. But we like to choose highlights and what has been going well. So we highlighted a lot of what good has happened in 2020 with the programming that we do.
Yeah. Well, I was there and I got a chance to talk to some of the council members and kind of talk to them about what they see this all about. And they say, bottom line, it's a team effort.
So the teamwork that the council does is critical to its functioning. We have grant requests that come in from every area, and then we cover so many different areas of the community in our background and knowledge that it's really important that we're willing to work together, listen to each other's opinions, follow each other's expertise, and prior experience in order to make the right decisions on how to use this money and how to best help our community.
The board consists of different avenues. So some of us are in the law enforcement community. So we see the first response right there at the scene, and then we can direct that to the other board members to say, who deal with the treatment services aspect of it. And we can relate to those people that we see at that first time at the scene to say, hey, there are services out there that I'm aware of specifically due to my connection with the board, and hopefully get those people some help.
I think the biggest role that the council has had is helping innovative groups get off the ground. We have started so many projects since I've been on the board, everything from Vivitrol within the jail to the COPE program to growing the Traffic Safety Partnership, covering every different aspect. When I started on the board, we didn't have medication-assisted treatment. We didn't have a recovery house in Hamilton County, and we have helped all these groups grow and maintain stability through our grant funding.
I think one thing, Monica, is what we've seen with your group, the council, is perseverance. They have gotten, what you said, an awful year.
Yeah.
And here they still are ticking.
Yeah. And we are led by a great board. They're in it. They do things. They're involved, and I love that about our board. And the membership, we have over 100 people and community members. So just great collaboration.
Time for our success story this week, and this week's part one of Sean's story.
I got involved probably in high school, around my senior year in high school. I started to mess around with like marijuana and alcohol, and then it just progressed from there. I went from marijuana and alcohol to prescription pain pills, and then from there, it progressed into heroin, and then heroin's kind of where the road it took me down. I started to just use heroin, and then I went from just snorting heroin to an IV user of heroin, and then when I found the IV use, that's kind of where my demise definitely really took off and my addiction took hold. And at that point, I was kind of like a captive, held captive to that. It was no longer my choice or decision in the matter. I was required the substance to even get up out of bed in the morning to, do my daily routine, as far as even to get in the shower on days. If I didn't have heroin to get up out of bed, I wasn't doing anything that day. Eating was definitely out of the question. I definitely wasn't involved with any family at that time. I wasn't meeting any of my engagements, or definitely wasn't involved in work. The best way for me to describe my addiction at that point was I was just kind of like a bystander there. The shell of the person was there, but that train was definitely on a runaway. I had no control over it, and even when I thought I had a handle on that, or I thought, that I could manage my day, it would somehow flip its ugly head on me, and it would turn everything upside down. Drugs and alcohol were my answer or my solution. Today I know that my problem is me. And you know, that's not an easy pill to swallow for yourself when you realize that you can finally see that you are the problem. And that was my place of, like I said, desperation, man. I just didn't want to live like that anymore. And quite frankly, I didn't have a choice. You know, I knew that if I continued where I was at that day, that my life was over.
And thank you, Sean, for sharing your story. That's just part one. Coming up later, the recovery, the road to recovery. That's something we've learned and we've talked about, Monica, is that road to recovery, and it never stops. They're always working at it.
Right. Yeah. And the old saying, one day at a time, that's literally what they do. They just take it day by day and get through the day and start the next day the same way. And yeah.
Love these success stories, and thanks again to Daryl Mitchell
Yes.
for helping us set them up. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're talking the New Day Center with Dan Johnson. And welcome back to Connecting Hope. Will Hampton along with Monica Greer and an old friend, both of ours, Dan Johnson from the New Day Center. Dan, good to have you here.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, it is fabulous to have you aboard. We've had you on the show, I think, a long time ago where we were talking about your book.
Right.
But let's specifically zoom in on the New Day Center and what it's all about. I know you have been through a journey to get this thing started.
Right. Well, the New Day Center is a treatment center where we primarily provide 30-day residential treatment. And we provide both all of the clinical services with licensed therapists and medical director and so forth. But we are unique in that we also have an emphasis upon the spiritual side of a person's life. And so we come at the issue of treatment with a Christian worldview, and kind of going back to some of the roots of the recovery movement in the early 1900s and so forth, back in the old Oxford group and even prelude to AA and so forth, when recovery was really rooted in a Christian faith. And so we're bringing a lot of that back into our programs. And so what we strive to do is to integrate and bring together the best of evidence-based treatment practices as well as that foundational Christian worldview. And we just believe that they make a great partnership, and that we see transformation in a really great way when we approach treatment from that point of view.
Well, you're also a pastor, not only just the founder of the New Day Center, but you're also a pastor. And you and I have talked a lot about that faith element. And you said the word transformational.
Right.
That's really the crux of it all, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I believe strongly, and I've seen it in hundreds of lives that I've had the privilege of working with over a number of years, that when someone's heart changes, when their thoughts and even that sense of hope that God is forgiving them, it's huge. In terms of how people begin to look at their lives and their future with a greater sense of anticipation, as opposed to just being overwhelmed with regrets and guilt and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to bring that faith, and I'm sure it's just so rewarding to work with people and to see that light and the spark in their eye and the sense of hope.
It
like
is.
you
I mean,
said.
it's still a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is with drug and alcohol addiction, it is a tough thing. It really does grab a hold of people and holds them tight and holds them hard for a long time, and it's not always easy to let go.
Yeah.
And so forth. But as that does occur, it is incredibly rewarding
Yeah.
along the way.
The New Day Center, you're in North Indianapolis, right on the line almost, North Meridian Street.
Right, North Meridian Street, just south of 465.
If people are watching this right now and said they want to reach out to you, how do they contact you? What's the best way to reach out and find you right now?
Well, either by going to our website at thenewdaycenter.com, or they can call us in Indianapolis, 317-291-1967 is our phone number, and they can reach us, and we'll get them connected with, whether it's inpatient, which we do, but we are also offer a variety of outpatient programs as well.
You've got some new things coming up this summer.
Yeah, we are Our intensive outpatient program is going to be starting at the first of the summer. Intensive outpatient is 9 hours a week in 3 segments, and it's a pretty common treatment program. A partial hospitalization program we'll also be doing, which is 5 days a week, 5 hours a day. And then we're also going to be offering a women's only intensive outpatient program. A lot of folks that struggle with addiction have a variety of trauma issues and other issues underneath the addiction and so forth. And so we found that having some gender-specific groups can be very, very helpful.
Yeah, they can open up and feel comfortable, and yeah, that's great. So how many beds will you have?
We have 14 beds
Okay.
in our inpatient program right now. And hopefully in the future we have a vision of expansion, but right now we're focusing on that.
Okay.
And then our outpatient is here on the north side of Indianapolis.
Okay.
Yeah, so you do outpatient on the north side. A lot of your counseling is on the north side of Indy.
Right.
But your residential is in Bloomington, correct?
Yeah, our residential's in Bloomington, and it's a home type environment, very comfortable, beautiful home environment, kind of set on 90 acres with woods and a pond, and very tranquil environment where folks can kind of be away from their environment and focus, which is really important during that inpatient experience.
And just for our viewers' sake, just because you're in Bloomington, anyone is eligible, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if folks need transportation, we have a variety of ways that we can, help provide transportation. It's about an hour, hour and a half south of Indy, and so forth. So, but in addition to working with the individual, we also work with families. I mean, we believe that addiction is not just an individual issue, but it affects the entire family. And so whether that's spouses or parents or even in some cases kids, we work with them along the way. And our real desire is to continue to walk with them after they've been in one of our intensive programs, whether that's residential or an intensive outpatient, because that really is just getting the ball rolling to a new kind of life, where they're learning to respond to the pressures, issues, challenges of life in a new way. Yeah. And so we do our best, not perfect, but we do our best to walk with people through that first year of sobriety and ultimately what I like to call freedom, where they're increasingly responding to life in a healthy way.
That's awesome. Yeah.
When you and I, several years ago, a lot of people may not know, we worked together. I was working for New Day several years ago now, and there was a lot of hurdles, a lot of things going on. And NIMBY is a word we use a lot, not in my backyard, trying to battle some of those hurdles. All you're trying to do is help people.
Right.
And you run into conflicts and run into hurdles. And how have you had the perseverance to do what you're doing today?
Well, just never give up, I guess. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, everybody wants to see treatment available. And yet there are an enormous number of hurdles for anyone that wants to provide services, whether that is from a residential point of view with zoning, which is that not in my backyard kind of thing. Great to do somewhere else, that kind of thing. But then there's just also an awful lot of, getting to the point of being inpatient or in network with insurance companies and so forth, that we've been able to navigate our way through those mazes as well. It's just it's a long and complicated process.
Yeah. But you do it primarily because of the heart you have for people. Help us touch that heartstring that you have, that heart, that passion as a pastor to try to help people. That ultimately that's what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it is. And I think a big part of it is seeing each individual as someone who is hurting, someone who's, I believe, created in the image of God, who God loves and wants us to love, and to see them as, your brother, your sister, your son, your daughter. How would you want them to be treated if that was your son or your daughter or your brother or sister? And I just believe, and it's because of my Christian faith, that the path to transformation is a path to love people into a better place in their lives. And it's caring for people, and it's having a true a true desire to see them, go in a good and positive direction. So I don't always get it right. I get frustrated sometimes too. People, walk in ways that are contrary to what you hope for them, and it can be disappointing along the way sometimes. But God has a way of bringing enough victories along the way to keep you
Amazing.
encouraged.
I'm very impressed with what you're doing. And like you said, to follow through with them, even when they leave your facility, they've gained a lot of trust in you. And to be able to take that with them and have somebody not holding their hand, but right there with them.
There are times you do need to hold their hand, when they're struggling. And also you get to see some of the victories as well, which is fun.
Yeah.
So again, the website and phone number.
It's thenewdaycenter.com. And that's the website. And the phone number is 317-291-1967.
Dan, thank you.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. It's great to be with
Great
you.
to see
All the
you.
best.
Keep up the great work.
Hey, thanks.
We're back to close Connecting Hope right after this. And welcome back to Connecting Hope, presented by the Hamilton County Council on Alcohol and Other Drugs. And Monica, I don't think I say it enough, but thank you for your sponsorship and for the council's sponsorship. It's the grant money that enables us to even do the show. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm impressed that we've done so many shows, and the board and the membership just value this show so much. So we
That's
appreciate
great.
that too.
Thank you, and thank the board.
Oh, thank you.
Time for our success story, part 2. This is Sean's story.
I just found a place of desperation, man. I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired, I just woke up that morning. I still remember it was Saturday, November 8th. And I said, I just can't live like this anymore. And it wasn't that I didn't have means, because I had plenty of the substance that morning. And it was like an awakening. It was like, my higher power had laid out a road for me that morning. He said, Sean, today you have 2 choices. Today you decide if you want to live or if you want to die. And that's really what it was for me. It was a matter of life and death. And at that point, I just had to throw up my hands and surrender and say that I can't do this on my own. And I need something to get me there, And I picked up the phone that morning and I reached out. And I was taken to a place called Landmark in Carmel, Indiana. I didn't bring any clothes. I didn't bring anything with me. I threw my cell phone out the window on the way to Landmark because I knew I just had to go right in that moment, There was no question. No, I didn't want to stop anywhere for anything. I didn't want to pack clothes. I remember telling the person that took me, we have to go now. If we don't go, I'm not going to make it there. And I just went. And, it was a humbling experience. The first 4 days I was at Landmark, I stayed in the same exact clothes I had on. I showered every day, but I didn't have any material things. It was just me. And I got a chance to sit with just me, without any substance, without any outside influences, and just really reflect on what life looked like for me at that moment. And at that moment, man, life wasn't good. And for the first time, I got to take a look at reality. And I think that was just being free of the substance. And through that awakening of my higher power, giving me a choice between life and death, man, you got to get pretty freaking humble. And you got to get pretty honest with yourself, And for me, a lot of my core problem was I'm not worth it, I'm not worthy. And today those values have changed so much, They've changed around to I am worth it and I am most definitely worthy. I'm thankful to be given a second chance today and a chance to truly live. Like I said, I'm 37 years old and this is the first time in my entire life that I can truly say that I'm living. Living in reality is not always fun and enjoyable. It's quite painful at times. But once I can work through the pain of that, man, the other side of that looks amazing. And especially when I can move through that without substance. And that's what the Tools of Progress House and the 12-step program that I participate in have taught me, man. It's taught me today how to successfully live and work through real life situation, life on life's terms, without having to put a substance in my body, man. And it's a joyous thing today. This path is not easy, but any day, that I was out there using is 10 times harder than anything that I've experienced in recovery so far. So I'm forever grateful to Progress House, to a higher power and for a second chance, man. And it's a lifelong journey. I don't get to say tomorrow that I'm done working on my recovery. This is something that I'll have to work on for the rest of my life, but I'm thankful that I get a chance to do so.
Thank you, Sean, for sharing, and thank you for your perseverance and hard work, because I think that's one thing I've discovered. It is hard work.
Yeah.
All these success stories, they're
Yeah.
working hard every day.
Yeah, and a lot of their stories are so different, but the common denominator is the work that they have to put in for their recovery.
And Dan Johnson said earlier in the show, faith is a big part of all these stories.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a break. We're back to close out this edition of Connecting Hope after this. And welcome back to Connecting Hope, presented by the Hamilton County Council on Alcohol and Other Drugs. Will Hampton with Monica Greer, and we're back to close out this week 34. Good friend Dan Johnson was on earlier in the show, and I don't know if I told the story well enough of the hard work it's taken to get the New Day Center up and running and doing what they're doing. And,
Right.
and I commend Dan and his entire team. It shouldn't be that hard to try to help people, but it has been.
Yeah, there's a lot of hurdles, and for trying to find the right facility. I mean, there's certain things that you need in a recovery facility, the medical side of it, and so there's a lot of things to do and a lot of hurdles.
But he's just one of the great success stories of centers and places and facilities that are helping people.
Yeah, it's so exciting that we have more options now. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Another great week. For Monica, I'm Will. We appreciate you watching Connecting Hope.